Hey, I wanted to show you this really cool mastering compressor that you can get for free. Over here, I've got the Gentleman's Edition plugged up. Maybe I should bring up the actual free one. There we go. Yeah, it's a free download. You can read all about it right here, and why it's good for metal is because it's so transparent. So if you want a raw sound, ironically, because this thing's so digital, this lets you be you. It's transparent, doesn't change your sound in any way, no digital artifacts or whatever. So if you got like something that sounds like you were recorded in a garage or something, this is the way to go. It sounds very raw. It, like, you know, glues all of your tracks together without adding anything digital to it. There's apparently this Kotelnikov or whatever dude. He's like a master at all these digital plug-in things or something. It signature, whatever, it describes them right here. So I'll put this link in the description of the video. I'd say this is a must-have for home recording musicians that especially are on a budget, because this is free. I'll let you listen to what I got here. This is a track that I worked on. So there you have it. If I want to run through what I've got here, the threshold is what you drop on top of your transients, like you see up here on this bass thing. All the little spiky things are your transients. And the more you drop the threshold on your transients, the more it'll tell it to be like, you know, like, get up here! And it shoots that quieter transient up to that ceiling that it's set at, and it boom makes it out. And your makeup gain, I've noticed, because the threshold also makes it quiet on this one, it actually drops the volume on it as well. But even though it's quieter, it brings those lower transients up to volume. You can use the makeup gain to counteract that, so you can blow it out and still make it really loud at the same time. So you're boosting that stuff and making it all dance together. Peak Crest is like a knob where you go between hot and cold. Hot meaning your release peak over here at the bottom, and that focuses on each individual transient. In particular on mine, since my loudest transient, I'm assuming, is my kick, because I've deliberately made that and the snare poke over everything else, but they die really fast. Now the transient dies, so you can still hear everything else, so that gives it the feeling of everything punching together, even though it's more aggressive. Where was I? I went on a tangent, lost what I'm saying. So you bring that threshold down, boost that to volume, use the makeup gain to make it just as loud. Peak Crest, release peak. Yeah, I was talking about peaks. So the release peak focuses on each individual transient. Release RMS focuses on the loudness in general over everything in there. So I've set it to be the best of both worlds. So if you noticed when I played through there, both of those lights were dancing. If I were to go to my bridge section, I love my bridge here. I'll show you what happens when you go back and forth, because it either lights up to the peak side or the RMS side. So I like to set it like right there in that sweet spot where it's the best of both worlds, and for me that happens to be 0 dB. The default was 3 dB, but mine set at 0. Now the softening and ratio is how aggressively you're attacking the overall transients, and as you can see, maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, I don't know. But I attacked it pretty aggressively. It sounds good though. I mean, that's like the higher I cranked those, the more aggressive it sounded, and it's metal, so I'm just like, yeah! So I just put them up full blast because it sounded great. So I'm just like, yeah, titty twister them knobs. All right, and then attack and release, because this is, well, you know, it's digital. You tell a computer to do something, it does it. This is not hardware compression. This is totally 100% digital compression, not modeled after anything analog. Okay, so when you tell attack and release to be 71 milliseconds to 36 milliseconds, it'll do it because it's a computer. That's how C++ works. That's the language used for most audio plugins, FYI. Don't know what this one is made. I'm not that nerdy, but what I've done is I've whipped out a delay calculator. My song is at 210 BPM. The 16th note at that is 71.34 milliseconds. And 36 milliseconds is like somewhere in between that. So it attacks, releases, it punch, punch, punch. Attacks it, lets it go, attacks it, lets it go. And that sounds great. Very punchy. And you know, you can hear it with your ears too. It's not that I'm not using my ears, audio guys. When I listen to it, it's like, yeah, that worked. So I just keep doing that. It's not like, you know, an analog compressor where you have to, you know, work the knobs and find out where it sits just right. And that's because it doesn't need a current inside of it to begin with to make it start working. It's an audio plugin. It's digital. It already has what it needs to start working on even like a humbug fart. It's the smallest, quietest noise in the universe. And if you had like a microscope ear thing to listen to it, it would be like, and this thing would just like boom. You can like make it super loud with this compressor because it's digital. With an analog compressor, humbug fart is nowhere near loud enough of a signal to make it work on a hardware thing. So it, you know, that's the difference. It's software. So output gain makes everything a lot louder. I use makeup because that's like, you know, it's supposed to counteract your threshold and everything, and you know, that's about the whole side of this. Over here to the left, you're gonna notice there's your slope. I told it to do a 12 dB slope because that is very aggressive. And the frequency I set to 50 hertz because that's about where the kick drum sits, just underneath that. It ties up the whole bottom end and makes it all groove together, and it's awesome. So by default, that's set to a 3 dB slope at 100 hertz, but since I'm doing metal, I altered that. And that's not an EQ, by the way. This is telling this compressor where to target the bottom end. So it just ends up sounding really great. I recommend this mastering plugin, and I like it. It's really cool to have that. Works out very well, and it's like keeps the original sound from all your tracks that you recorded and put together, and it doesn't like warp them or distort them or change them or do anything weird. It just adds that subtle tie-in and glues them all together so they group and sit well, and it's really awesome. So hope y'all enjoyed that. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Check this plugin out. It's pretty amazing. And take care.